We are recording.
We're live?
We are live.
All right, everyone, we're live. Welcome to another episode of the Rap Thought Podcast. And if you haven't heard us yet, you're here with Brandon, myself, and you're here with Matt, that dude over there.
Yes, sir.
And welcome to another week. We take a look at a pod. No, we don't take a look at a pod. We are the pod. We take a look at an album. We give it a listen for a week or so, and then we give you our rap thoughts on that.
Yep, and the albums are chosen at random. So randomly this week we have Gift of Gab, Fourth Dimensional Rocketships Going Up.
Going up, not down.
Going up,
They're
because
going
that's
up.
where rocket ships go.
Depending.
Well, after they're done, then they come down.
Good rocket ships will go up intentionally, not like the first couple of Apollos that went
Right.
So some do come down, but we don't want them to.
Right.
But these are going up.
Underground heroes or underground staples, especially if you're on the West Coast. If you get into underground hip hop, chances are that you have heard or even heard about Blackalicious.
I was going to say, like, there's some, maybe if you're out there, maybe you were like me at one point in time where it's like, oh, I haven't heard of Gift of Gab. If you've heard of Blackalicious, you've heard of Gift of Gab because
He's
same
the
dude.
rapper. Chief Excel is the producer in Blackalicious. Gift of Gab is the rapper. And their song Alphabet Aerobics has gotten a lot of attention over the years.
That one was, it was on the NBA for a little bit, I think a couple seasons ago during one of their commercials. That's where I had heard that track. And it was cool.
I've always known about it. And then I remember the kid who played Harry Potter
Daniel
did
Radcliffe.
it. Yeah, he did it on a late night talk show. He rapped the whole song. He memorized it and he did the whole flow and he did it really fast. And it was like, oh shit, that's kind of crazy. So I think that exposed a lot of people to Blackalicious who would have never heard about them otherwise. Mm-hmm. And then, so I think a lot of people after that, they hear that song. They're interested in that song because it is such a crazy flow and he's using the alphabet in a creative way. And we mentioned this song before when we were talking about Logic, when he did the A to Z song.
Yeah. Gift of Gab definitely did it way better. But
and that's the one thing I definitely want to shout out to Gift of Gab is technically he's an amazing rapper. He's up there with the greats in terms of technical rapping and putting words together. There's not many other rappers that can keep up with Gift of Gab.
He is. I definitely agree with what you said about him being pretty underground because I feel like I've heard of him only because he's from not this area, but he's local to us. He's from Sacramento. And so if we're sitting over here in Sonoma County, that's an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Right. He's Bay Area, basically.
He's Bay Area,
and
basically.
He came up with the group Quantum Projects, which is a Bay Area collective with Tyrix, DJ Shadow, Latif the Truth Speaker, Lyrics Born. They all came out of the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. So he's part of that collective, and they started, in the mid to late 90s. So he's been around for a long time.
And if I remember right, if not him, then the DJ from Blackalicious, one of their sons, they went to Cardinal Newman for a minute. And
I didn't know
then he
that.
transferred to El Molino, where I went to. So I had Spanish.
So Cardinal Newman's in Santa Rosa.
Oh, yeah.
El Molino's in Forestville.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners not from Sonoma
My bad,
County.
I gotta stop talking like that. So Cardinal Newman is basically, there's Cardinal Newman and there's Ursula. So Ursuline, not Little Mermaid Ursula, my bad. Ursuline. And it's an all-boys school for Cardinal Newman, all-girls school for Ursuline. And so, especially if you're from around here and into sports, Cardinal Newman and Ursuline had the highest teams. Joe Montana's son went to Cardinal Newman. I think there's maybe a couple other famous people went there, but that's basically where the money is. But for whatever reason, he had left there and came to El Molino, and I had Spanish with him for, I don't remember him being there that long. It was like a couple weeks, almost feels like a couple months.
That's pretty crazy.
So yeah, but it's all right, dude. But yeah, so that's kind of like I remember just that rumor floating around school of like, hey, like Gift of Gab, or no, not Gift of Gab. They were saying Blackalicious' son because no one really knows.
They thought it was one person.
They thought it was one person. So like,
funny.
hey, Blackalicious' son he's going to El Molino now. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit.
That's funny.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
But I could be wrong. Maybe people thought it was another group. But I think I remember asking him about it, and he said, yeah.
Okay.
But
Dope. So you've never listened to this album before, right?
I have not.
Okay. But I'm sure you've heard some songs from it.
You know,
Or did
I've
you
heard
recognize
of
anything from it?
when I heard Way of the Light, I was like, oh, I've heard this.
Yeah.
I was like,
that
I've
was
heard
in
this
a
track
Sprite commercial back in the day when it came out.
Oh, that's where I heard that from. Okay, because the xylophone.
Yeah.
I remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I'd never really heard of him before, like given him a deep listen before. And again, like that's why I really respect this podcast on my end, because I get to, oh yeah, I've heard that person before. Never really heard them. Now I get to listen to
And
them
then on the
and get my
flip
thoughts.
side is I'm very fond of this album. I listened to it a shit ton in high school. So for me, it's cool to revisit that because I haven't listened to this album in full in years. But I remember banging this with my friends all the time. This would always be in rotation in my car. And we all loved this album. And we banged it all the time. And it just brings back so many cool memories being in high school. I've said this many times about some other albums. But one thing that I think of when I listen to this album, and you might think I'm corny or whatever,
I already
or
do.
soft, but
I already do.
this album feels like a warm blanket to me. Like it just feels comfortable and like I'm in a warm, safe place. It just because it brings me back to like such a good time when I was younger.
You could have said like it was a staple in your life, and it wouldn't have
No,
been
but
corny.
it did. That's the first thing that comes to my head. It's like a warm blanket. You just like feel good. You're like, oh shit, like this is like soul music, and it's comforting to listen to.
It
for
is.
me.
I mean, I would have. I mean, if I wanted to not be a corny,
If you want to call me corny or soft or whatever, that's cool. That's fine with me.
you already are. Now you're trying to be rabbit where you're already insulting yourself, so I have nothing.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
But one thing I didn't know about this album, I never knew, are the producers that worked on it. I had no idea who produced it. I never thought of it. I never thought to look. But it's produced mainly by Jake One and Vitamin D. Jake One's a super dope producer. He's from Seattle. He's worked with many underground legends. He's worked with De La Soul and MF Doom, Brother Ali. And he's produced for some more mainstream artists. He's also in the group Tuxedo with Mayor Hawthorne.
Tuxedo's a cool album.
Yeah, so he's an incredible producer, and you can see even though this came out in 2004, the production's incredible, and it keeps up with today. It
definitely
doesn't
does.
sound like 2004.
I don't think you could drop it today, but it keeps up.
Yeah.
Now.
And
Actually, I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't drop today, but you wouldn't hear the beats in an album that would drop today. But as you
Right.
say, like it does age well to where you can
This
still
aged
listen
really
to
well.
it and be like, yeah, this is cool. This is
Yeah,
dope.
and Vitamin D I've never heard of. I have no idea who Vitamin D is. So maybe he's like a local Bay Area producer, but he did a great job. He did a lot of the beats on here. So that was cool for me to learn that about this album, listening to this for the podcast.
That is cool. What do you think about the cover when you look at it? Well, first, before that, so for me, not having heard of this album, Fourth Dimensional Rocketships Going Up. It's a long ass title.
Yeah.
It seems I don't want to say abstract, but it's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Right.
What do you get from the title?
Okay.
What do you get from the cover?
So I looked up what the fourth. I kind of have a general idea of what the fourth dimension is. The fourth dimension is space and time. It's beyond our three-dimensional space. So when you look at the fourth dimension, you're talking about you're going beyond time. So you're moving. You can go forward and backwards in time, and that's the fourth dimension. You can move in that space. So with that in mind, and you try to apply it to this cover and to this album, it's obviously for him it's a fourth dimension in also sound, not just space and time, but he's adding sound into that. That's why the rocket ship is built of speakers, and he's taking off into space on this journey, and it's basically a musical journey that you're taking off on with Gift of Gab.
And he touches on all of that it's cool because like he really goes into that throughout the entire album, like just referenced all day, every day.
It's a loose concept. it's not a full concept album of creating characters and they're in space and they're in the fourth dimension. It's not like that, but he threaded this concept of going on a sound journey with him throughout the album.
And I feel that what I got out of it was not only this sound journey that he's like partaking with you, but it's like it's transcending you and opening you up. There's a track where we'll talk about later on where it's like he wants you to basically take this adventure into your own mind. And Evolution is the track we'll talk about it in.
Right.
But like where there's something deeper inside of you where you have to break reality because it's a lie and see like what's really out there. Like this album there's nothing concrete that says what to do to get to this point or what will happen once you get there. But there's just a lot of like, I want to say like internal reflection almost.
Yeah.
Of like, if you discover yourself, get rid of the materialistic things, realize your own what wealth really is. It's really something within yourself. Like you'll really open up and transcend as a human being, really.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily incorporate any type of divine being or God in particular. It's like I walked away thinking that he's kind of creating his own religion based off of sound, and it really affects people in different ways.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
But it's so convoluted, though. Like I think it was a great way of saying it. But like when I think about it now, and I'm sure if I were to listen back and be like, what does that even mean? So I mean, I would really encourage all of you to go out and listen to this album. Just pause it right here. Go listen to the album. Come back.
Right, and it's not that long of a listen.
It's like 48 minutes, I think it is.
It's not bad. But yeah, with that said, let's get into the first track, The Ride of Your Life.
Ride of Your Life.
I love this beat. It brings me back. To me, this sounds epic. You know, it's an epic sound of you are about to embark on this journey. And he starts off with this crazy flow, Gift of Gab. And he has such an amazing control of his voice. And it just entices you right away to try to pay attention to every word he's saying. He just commands your attention when you're listening to this intro.
Let me go off of that point right there. So from this song being the start and thinking about this is the only song where like the cadence in his lyrics are like really like I don't want to say Machine Gun Kelly because he didn't do that, but like it's different. Like you can only focus on one at a time. You can either only focus on the beat or only focus on like his lyrics or only focus on his cadence. And it's just three different, you have to listen to the song a couple times. And throughout the album, he says so many things together that like you really have to slow it down.
And, you know, there's going to be different thoughts on that. Some people aren't going to want to deal with that of having to listen to it multiple times to understand what he's saying or to focus on it. Or there's going to be people like me that look at it as, okay, that's great replay value.
Oh,
That's
that's
what
not
I mean?
a negative thing at all.
No, but some people might look at that as like, I don't want to spend the brain power. I just want to chill and vibe to something.
But it's kind of like a twofer. Like usually you get someone, and I feel like it's in another artist, maybe it's like 75% beat and then 25% lyrics to some people. But this one, like just the way his art style and how he delivers his lyrics.
Like I said, he commands your attention.
Yeah. You want to know what the hell he's saying. And like, there's not too many people that deliver like that. So you have to, you can only focus on one thing at a time. It's either the beat or it's the lyrics because he carries, if he were to do this a cappella, it would be a dope song too. Right. Because he just,
like a spoken poet, like a slam poetry type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in this song, he basically introduces the loose concept of the album. He says, it's a journey not of sight but sound. Ready or not, you're bound to also embrace the light and drift on. Let your soul be again reborn. For these things, buckle up. It's the ride of your life. So like we said, you're going on a sound journey, but also, like you said, you brought up the religious aspects. So being reborn is a religious motif that comes up a lot in religion. So he kind of throws that into it.
Yeah.
Well.
I agree with all that. Like what I put down for that was like it's he's inviting you into his own experience for you to explore like with him,
Right.
and it's like he's discovered something new and wants to share it, but it can't really be explained. It can only be expressed, as you said, through sound.
Right.
And yeah, you're on this ship, you're out to explore it. And you kind of get the sense that I don't remember if I put this because of the lyrics or just the way I felt, but there's no turning back once you hop on. It's just, there's no turning back from it.
Yeah, you've taken off.
You've taken off. And there's going to be a bunch of styles and which are sacred to him. So there's a point in the track where he says that these are his children. His styles are his children. And so, yeah, there's just this level of sacredness. And you're kind of like, okay, like I'm going to go on a very pretty like sacred ride. Like this is important. It means a lot. I'm going to learn something from this.
Yeah. So carrying on to that, the next track, Rat Race, and we've all heard the term rat race. It refers to trying to keep up with those around you, and you're in this race to obtain wealth or status.
It's like an endless race to
that's
means.
Futile. It's futile.
Yeah.
In the end, and so that's what he's referring to, and he's talking about that of people being in the rat race of stressing, cussing, drinking, smoking, running, falling. They're doing all these things that don't add up to anything. They're kind of wasteful.
It's kind of like a hamster in a wheel. Like you're not going anywhere, but you're moving. But
right, and then he's making a point that with his music, he's exiting from the rat race, and he's removed himself from the race, and he's aware of it, and he doesn't want to compete or try to race along with everyone else.
Yeah, he's not about that, and he even says. Sorry, y'all, but I don't bring the gat along. Just a pen that does tricks like a magic wand. Get my cadence and a whole rap pattern on. And, that's just like, no guns here. I'm not a gangster rapper. If not this track, it's another one where he says, like, I want to be considered as an artist. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed that I saw, I picked up on a lot of the songs is he brings up his ego a lot. And talking about how he's being defeated by his ego, and then also, trying to get rid of his ego. He has this battle going throughout the album. So one of the lyrics is, dude, my ego isn't quite that deflated yet. Signed a deal with a major, haven't made it yet. Got a past cable bill, haven't paid it yet. Crazy wit, now I love my life, taking it where it hasn't been taken yet. Go against the grain of the rat race daily. So, he hasn't quite defeated his ego. He signed a major deal because he wants to fulfill his dreams and of obtaining status and wealth as a rapper. But at the same time, he's still got bills to pay. And he knows he has crazy skill, but it's going to be an uphill battle going against the rat race.
And you see a lot of growth, especially towards the end of this track. So he says, used to puff on a daily pack of cigarettes till I bought a pack of chewing gum, Nicorette. Come to find that I had to get rid of that. Now it shows I got more wind in the set. And, it's like he talks about this later on too, where it's like, I paid past mistakes that have caught up with me, but I'm now trying to reverse those things, and I'm seeing the positive effects of that. So it's almost like a metaphor for wanting to make that change. And it's like, and it's really working off, even though I've been doing something that's become a lifestyle, and now I'm making a lifestyle change. So
yeah. So after Rat Race, we go into Way of the Light, and this is definitely one of my favorite songs off the album. One of my favorites from this era, just the early 2000s of hip hop. This song always, struck a chord with me. It's amazing in so many ways.
I think I got tired. I think the song has a great message. I think it got kind of tired out for me for some reason. I don't know if I'm thinking of the Sprite commercial or I don't know, but I was like, I'm kind of somewhere for whatever
for me,
reason.
I can't play this one out enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I could play this over and over.
But like I said, like I think it's great. I think he's stressing like to wake up. This is where I was talking about earlier, where he's talking about waking up from the materialistic life and to find the wealth within yourself. And I think that's a fantastic message to send to people. life is a lie. We're being sold on, hey, if you get these things, you'll be happy and you'll live a great life. But like, really, if you're not happy within yourself, you're never really, you can keep buying all this shit to make yourself happy. But so you accept yourself, you won't get anywhere.
Yeah. He has so many gems in his lyrics on this song. So for your listeners out there, this is definitely a song that you want to pay attention to, because you can pull a lot from it and apply it to your life, and just realize that, you can remove yourself from the rat race of chasing money and chasing fame or whatever it is. You don't have to. You can do everything at your own pace, and you can do everything your own way.
Yeah, and especially if we're going to think of age ranges, the 20s are kind of not as bad as the teens, but this whole, oh shit, I graduated, I need to be successful and doing this stuff. It's like, no, you don't have to be doing, success is subjective. It's really, you do your thing and chill. I really like other lyrics that had in the track of, I put the pen to the paper and let the ink thin, give what I'm channeling through me without no thinking. And I also like cultivating image instead of the great soul. Cultivate an image, but it was all for show. Blow up, explode, didn't erupt away though. Millions of dollars does not a mortal make whole. You can only make what you've been given away though. And I just think that that's loaded right there. Where do you even start? You stop focusing on your image and really focus on yourself.
Yeah, it's deep. You can have millions of dollars, but that doesn't make you a whole person. That doesn't complete you. That's not going to fulfill you on the inside. You may think it will, and you may get caught up with everyone else in the rat race saying you need this or that to become whole. But if you're not listening to yourself, you're not going to reach that.
It's just such a deep track right there, and it has a really great sound to it.
Yeah, and I love how Rat Race, Way the Light, and then as we go into Stardust, they all kind of relate with exiting the rat race, and then you're following the light, but you don't want to get caught up and be a shooting star, and then you explode and you become stardust. And you don't want to just sell your soul and then all of a sudden you burn out and you're not bright anymore.
You know what's interesting? I actually didn't have a whole lot of notes on this track. I put down it's further talking about not getting caught up as materialistic things and to focus on yourself. But then there's a part where he says as he's exploding off and flying away, he's having people behind him they're eating his stardust.
Right.
And so going through having this open conversation, I'm almost thinking about, well, if I'm looking at the last three tracks and what we've learned from those, people that aren't on board with this, they can eat that stardust that they're not on board with. So kind of if you don't want to pull, for me, it's I didn't pull a whole lot from that, but if I want to look at what we just got from it, then that's what people are missing out on, and people can eat that stardust.
Right.
So
yeah,
cool.
And his fucking rhyming on this is insane. Just his rhyme schemes and his flow, it's crazy. And it's a creative way to talk shit and to do battle raps. And he's applying the concept of being out in space and in the fourth dimension. So he brings in elements of saying he's in space and he's gonna leave you in a stardust, right? But he's also battle rapping and he's talking his shit and he's letting you know that you can't out rap him, which is cool. It's a different way of doing that, because almost on every album we've done, there's been at least 2 or 3 of just battle rap tracks or hip hop tracks.
Which is cool. And he keeps it slim as well. But a lot of these will go over your head if you're not paying attention. But for me, because I would definitely not say he's oversaturating his bars at all. They all make sense. It's just sometimes it's kind of I don't know if I want to say Eminem, but where you say you pack so much information into something that you're shit, I'm going to miss something if I don't pay attention. And I think that's for me why I have to rewind back. Where Logic, he really just does it more for the rhyme scheme, but he's not saying a whole lot.
Right.
But Gift of Gab is I have a fear of missing something because he's saying so much.
I would compare it to a book. Let's say you have two books, they're the same amount of pages, but one has really small font and you're fitting, 2 times as many words on a single page. So Gift to Gab would be the one with really, really small font, a lot more words on one page, logic, same amount of pages, but bigger font, less words. That's how I would describe that.
Yeah.
So it takes you a little bit longer to get through the page.
And for the next track, Flashback, I really enjoyed this track because at first, I think on the first listen, I was like, oh, I wonder how that fits. But it gets referenced later on as to old stuff that he's talking about.
Yeah.
So in Flashback, it kind of takes you back of, thinking about, reminiscing about like family barbecues, passing notes to that girl in fifth period.
Yeah.
The old music you listened to, the old styles you used to wear. It just takes you back to simpler times, like even before drinking. Because there was, not too long, like I'm turned 32 today.
Happy birthday.
Hey, thanks, man. But you think back of like, okay, there was high school and then there was like the drinking phase and then you kind of transition out of it. And the drinking time was a lot of fun. But even before that, when like you're going over to your friend's house, the parents are there, so you can't really do anything. But like, with my homies, we go and play laser tag, we play worms, we play a bunch of shit. And that was a really good time. So it takes you back to those kind of times.
Yeah. Well, I would say this song definitely fits in the concept of the album because if you're in the fourth dimension, then you can go back in time and you can go forward in time. So I think this is one of those songs where he's able to travel back in time and view himself when he was younger and kind of reminisce on those things when he was a kid and the good times, the innocent times. It's a great song. I love the beat. I love the feeling that you get from listening to this. It's very, it's a very welcoming track. It's really well produced.
And if you're thinking of Mace's Welcome Back like I did, I was like, oh wait, that's Mace did that. But this this album came out a year before Mace did. So this was 2003. Mace came out in 2004. If I have I might be a year off, but I'm pretty sure.
I think this came out in 2004.
Okay, then this is 2004. Mace was 2005.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, great song. And then next we go into Up, which kind of he showcases his storytelling here a little bit, where it starts off with him getting into a cab and he starts having a conversation with a cab driver who's from a third world country, and his conversation puts him to perspective, get to Gab's own life and where he lives and how he views where he lives.
The cab driver is immediately like, yeah, the people from where I'm from would love to live in the ghettos here. And it kind of catches Gift to Gab off guard. Like, wait, what? What do you mean?
Right, because all he knows is like, okay, I'm living in America in the ghettos and the system is oppressing me and my people and people like me. Why would anyone want to live in this? Why would anyone want to come here to be a part of this? And he gets his answer. I mean, from the guy from the third world country, he's like, this is all so much more than what we have back home. Even if people are getting oppressed.
Do you feel like that kind of gives, how do I want to say that? For certain immigrants, do you feel like it puts them it could potentially put them in a place of complacency?
Yeah, I think when they come, because they don't have all the history, they don't know all the history, they don't know the energy when they come over here. So when they come over here, they're focused on themselves and they're focused on bettering their lives and their families' lives back home, which is fair. I mean, if they come here and they're able to do better, then I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's their responsibility to come here and fight the fight for all Americans. It's not, it's the same thing. Like, we don't need to go to another country and fight their fight. If I move there, all of a sudden I got to take that on.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more like, it's interesting because I feel that there's some groups that they're just like, well, I'm fine. And from this track, it made me think of that because if their situation was worse where they're from, and what's worse for us is great for them, then it's like, yo, I'm good. Like there's not much of an incentive for me to fight because then if we're just like, well, there you could have more. They're like, well, we already have more because we already lived a pretty shitty lifestyle.
Right.
So it kind of just made me think about, not for all, but for those some that do come over and don't really want to get into it. Of like, nah, man, like my life already improved just coming back here. So I mean, there's always like a silver lining in things. Like, I've been in some tough situations and stuff coming up, but like I've definitely never been in another country's situation growing up though either.
Right.
So it's just really all perspective.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a cool song. It's cool for him to put that into a song and talk about that. Talk about his experiences. And I love his lyrics in the song when he says, I said I yearn for change all over the map from a system deeply rooted in hate. It sets traps, crack liquor stores, guns, plus our culture was robbed. So he's speaking out against, the oppression that Black people have faced in this country and just what he experiences in his own neighborhood where he grew up, of being surrounded by liquor stores and crack and guns and he's like, okay, how did all this get here?
And I really like that whole second part of it's all one verse, but I really like that second half because he's really speaking out to how like the power elite indoctrinates those below to hate themselves and how they push their own agenda at the expense of everyone else. And it kind of made me think of when Kanye was just like, they teach us to hate ourselves and love their wealth. But I just thought that was pretty deep. Like it's a lot of, he never uses the word indoctrinate, but he heavily implies that, the system is not out there to work for the people.
Right.
Lower socioeconomic statuses. I thought that was cool. A deep track, and I really liked it. It was short and sweet. It was just like, hey, here's my experience.
Right.
And
yeah.
you read all of this.
It's under 2 minutes long, so yeah, really short track.
Yeah, but you get so much out of it. But that's why I'm saying, like, he says a lot, and you don't want to miss anything because this is what a 5-minute discussion on this track off of a 2-minute song.
Right.
So yeah, it was.
Yeah. Good. So after that, we go into the Ritz, which this might be my least favorite song on the album.
Why is that?
I couldn't get into the beat. It wasn't my type of beat. He is talking his shit and he's doing crazy rhyme schemes, but also I wasn't a huge fan of the chorus. It kind of got old for me. It just wasn't my favorite. It's not a bad song, just not one that I'm like excited to get to when I'm listening to the album.
I like the beat. I thought the song was all right. I get I could be wrong, but I just got the feel that like he's preaching, not rapping, not whatever, but he's preaching this luxury, substantial, premium music to us that will really change the way that we view things. I really like this term that he's a verbal warlord.
Yeah.
Taking his game in this track and putting MC
he's
heads
doing a lot of battle raps.
Yeah, he's putting people on notice and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was just kind of one of those like hip hop and tracks where I'm just doing whatever. But a verbal warlord, it's fucking awesome. And South Park calling Kanye West a lyrical wordsmith. So
that's good.
Love that shit.
And then next we're going to Know You, which I really love this song. This is a great. He's covering all his bases on this album. This is the track for the girls. And he's talking about a girl that he meets her and he really wants to get to know her better and he feels her vibrations and he wants to get closer to her. And I love the beat on this. I love the hook. I think it's a really dope song.
What's cool, it takes me back to when we did, I believe, KRS-One, when we did Ghostface Killah. Like, they all have these personas or whatever, but they're dropping music that really is for, it's not degrading, it's not hypersexualized, it's not selling sex or anything. He truly wants to really, really get to know her.
Right. Yeah. And his lyrics reflect that. It's much more in depth. He says, I'm frozen in time. It's more than just you being a dime. I see the other half of me when I look into your eyes. reflections, soul connection for feeling circles, still working on myself. You too, I work with you through the cold world. So really deep stuff there. He's looking beyond just her looks. He sees himself in her, and that makes him want to work on himself.
Another line he says, I try to word it out to you and still I stall and hold out. I like the way you work out your mind, soul, and your body. And it's like, he's making her nervous. Like he wants to tell her what's up, but she's still like, he's, just starstruck by her. Mm-hmm. And like, I like that he says, I like the way you work out your mind, soul, and your body. Like you would think body in terms of physical, but it could also be health as well too. Like she's very like in tune with herself and being healthy, and then the mind and the soul, like she's a solid person to talk to, actually has her own value set and gives you enriching conversation. That's at least what I got from the whole track. But you get the feel like he feels a connection with her that I put down that surpasses the present, as if forged in the past and made into the future.
Wow. That's a good way to put it. And that fits in with the theme of the fourth dimension.
Right. Definitely touches in on that. So he's getting the whole package out of her, and it's not just sexuality. So it was cool.
Awesome. And then after that, we go into Real MCs, featuring Versatile, which I have no idea who Versatile is.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of them, but I think this is one of my. Yeah, I really like this track.
Yeah, this is a really dope song. I mean, it's battle raps. They're both spitting hard. I love the sample and the hook with LL Cool J.
Yeah.
That was dope. It fits so well into this.
Yeah, especially when we covered that album. Go listen to Radio.
Yeah.
Our radio episode.
Don't bring a girl donuts when you take her
bring
on a
girl
date.
Donuts and milk. Make sure.
I'm gonna keep that joke going for the rest of the podcast.
Like, that's awesome, dude. That's
anytime it comes up, I'm bringing.
It's total teenage status. I love that shit.
Dope song. This is battle raps going hard.
There's a lot going on in here, but like battle rap wise, but it's nothing. I didn't pull anything from it though. Yeah. But it was a dope track to listen to. I love that one.
And then next we go into an interlude called Hold On.
It's kind of like this ship just taking off.
Yeah.
I might be mixing it up with something else, but
I think it's just it's a little dope instrumental beat, just to kind of relax you a little bit as you're going through the album. Put your mind at ease from digesting all those lyrics that were just spit at you. So I always appreciate little interludes like that when you're listening to albums that are as dense as this. I like just a cool beat. Let me relax my mind a little bit, just not think about anything, and then bring you back into the album.
Track 11, In a Minute though. I gotta start off with one of the lyrics from there. Price tag on those days can't be measured or bought. And I really, in talking back about, what song was that? Where he's, talking back on, reminiscing back in the day and everything. Flashback was the track. That's just a good way to put that. It's just like, really, those are solid days. You don't know that you're going through them until, what is that Poison that says you don't know what you've lost until it's gone? No, that's Every Rose Has Its Thorn. Poison does that one. But you don't know what it's lost until it's gone. Yeah. But, it just kind of took me back and put me in that type of feel and everything. So.
Yeah, it's a great song. He's talking about his nephew in the first verse and his close relationship that he had with him until his nephew got caught up in the street life and went to jail. And it's almost like a letter to him that he's writing to his nephew while he's in jail, saying, he probably should have been there more for his nephew and had a little bit more influence on him.
But that's cool. The cool part about that is, like, he did say, like, I wish I was there to give you more guidance. But then he acknowledges at the same time, like, I was also learning to become a man, though. Like,
right. Yeah, he wasn't ready to take on that responsibility or to be that role model, or he didn't know that he was supposed to be the role model.
But it's, yeah, I like all that. I mean, I also think too, it's like, man, 'cause I thought of it as like two people fucking up and doing their own thing, but then one of them gets caught, and it's like, shit, I wish I could have been there to tell you not to do that. But then I was also learning too, so I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But I at least wish I was there.
Yeah, but he's at a point now where he can give some words of wisdom. You know, he's at that point where he can be that role model
now, but not then.
Right now, he says, and be the best you can be. Learn from your mistakes. You got a destiny, man. Your life's purpose is to take it there. So you're telling him, you know, get out, follow your dreams, do what you need to do, learn from your past, and move on.
He drops a lot of knowledge towards the end. So I didn't write down the whole verse. It was like two parts of two different bars, but it says, stay strong and take in all the knowledge that you can, stay healthy and keep in touch. And I think maybe that touched on me a little bit just because, like, especially right now, we're in Northern California, we're dealing with a lot of fires, and that sucks. We're dealing with the pandemic on top of that. That sucks. But, you know, you kind of have to stay strong, and the finish line will be closer than we anticipate that it is, and we just have to make it through. Right. And, you know, in the meantime, stay healthy. And this was my New Year's resolution, which I'm still working on, but to keep in touch. But I mean, I feel like the way he put it, it's ambiguous. It could either be stay in touch with those around you that like, you know, as you grow older, people move around and you distance yourselves, or to like stay in touch with reality and like, just remember like, hey, you know, shit's going on, but like, remember that it's just temporary. We're going to be hopefully looking back at this a year from now, 2 years from now, and being like, okay, it's a shitty time in life, but we moved on from it. So just to keep in touch with reality. So
yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
But yeah, like he also like acknowledges that with his nephew getting into trouble, I kind of got the hint that he died, but again, I don't know which one.
Yeah, he kind of made it. I think it was ambiguous.
Yeah, it was. I should have looked into that a little bit more. But either way, like his nephew isn't with him. But like he kind of acknowledges too that like there's, as he's touched like ambiguously on religion throughout the whole album, that like there's a divine plan scheme underneath all of this. There's a reason for all of this. So he kind of looks at it as like, it's okay. Like it'll all figure itself out in the end, which is kind of like one of my own mantras of like, it'll work itself out in the end. It always does. But yeah, it's just like a lot of great messages, and it really focuses on acceptance.
Yeah, and it's cool that he can relate it to a personal story of his to get those messages out. And then next we move on to Moonshine. Another great song. I love the beat on this. And this is where he talks more about himself and his struggle with alcohol. And I love the way he flips the meaning of moonshine. So moonshine is, you know, it's
a very highly concentrated alcohol.
Well, it's bootleg alcohol. It's not legal.
In some parts.
Right, but he flips it into him following the shine of the moon, which is guiding him away from drinking alcohol. So I love the how he works out in his own mind, where he can make it a positive thing.
And then at the end of the first verse, like you kind of see this trend of him. He's like wanting to give up, and he's getting ready to do it. But then once he looks out, sees the moonshine, the actual moon, and outside and whatnot, he has an epiphany and has a complete turnaround. And so throughout the rest of the track, he's reminiscing on all the tough shit he was in, and uses all that BS to fuel his fire to persevere. And so that's why I was saying before, when he starts looking, you know, when we're looking at tracks like Flashback and the one with where he's talking about his nephew, where it's like, and this is what I'm saying, like when I first heard the album, I was kind of curious of like, I wonder how this fits. Like I get it, but it also seems like separate. But if he's now looking at everything and how it feels to where he is now, because you got a good idea of where he is in his journey now. It's like, okay, this is what fuels him. This is what keeps him motivated. This is how he perseveres. It all ties together and makes sense. He's giving you some of the bad times that he's working through, but also like, hey, back then there were also some good times too that also fuel me. So
yeah, and he's definitely growing. You know, he's growing on this album. He's becoming into himself. He's figuring out who exactly he is and recognizing his mistakes. So he now knows where he's going and why he's going there. He has purpose, which I think is a great thing. And he says that in these lyrics. He says, now it's all about purpose, progress, not perfection. Seeing beneath the surface, faith followed by action. I live it all now with a hunger and a passion. So it just lays it out that, okay, he was a little bit lost before. He got lost in the sauce, basically. And now he's, okay, I'm going to focus on bettering myself and having a purpose so that when I wake up every day, I'm following my passion and not deviating. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting distracted. So yeah, it's a great motivational song.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely uplifting. We skipped Evolution and then Moonshine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But Evolution, I started off with a verse. It's evolution, get up on it, and come into the future of reality, living deep inside the mind and beyond. And this is where we were brought up earlier, where he's wanting you to look inward,
right,
and see like it's not about external factors. It's really about truly living on inside. And yeah,
Evolution. I mean, his rhyme schemes are insane on this. He does some crazy stuff. But yeah, the lyrics in this is definitely music for the soul. This will help you grow and see beyond your own small circle and put in perspective, like, the world is so much bigger than just your own life and what's around you.
And what I'm gonna add to that, so another line that I really liked was, man, the planet needs healing. You focus on credibility streetwise. Okay, we believe you. Now what? Right. So, all these, I work with these kids that they just, they want to really, really focus on their image and how people see them. And it's like, you achieve that. In a perfect world, in their perfect world, you achieve that. Now what? We still have fires. There's still people suffering out here and doing all this and that. But you got your chain, you got your iPhone 12, you got all that. Now what? What does it mean now? And that's something that I've always kind of thought on, where there's a kid I work with and, it's just they want all these materialistic things for their image, but it's like, people are also going to look at you and be like, hey, you still live at home with your parents, as he should. He's a kid, but they just want to come off as rich, and you see their houses and they're not rich. Right. So
yeah, it's a mentality.
Interesting.
So the next in the rotation is Right On. Man, this song brings me back to high school. We used to bump this song a lot. So yeah, I love this song. I've always loved it. I still put it in playlists today. Whenever I make a playlist where this fits in, I always add it. But yeah, I love it. He's talking about his journey, and he references starting out with Chief Excel, his producer and DJ that he works with on Blackalicious. And this is where he brings back up the ego, and he talks about knowing your ego and defeating it. Defeating your ego in the present, and being aware of your ego and able to overcome it so that you can, because your ego will stop you from accomplishing a lot of things. It'll put pride there, and you won't be able to get where you need to go. So yeah, I love the messaging in this. And I love when he says synchronicities, because nothing is really coincidence. Living for today, yesterday, and tomorrow, because it's all a fleeting moment for a soul moving through time and space. So this brings back the concept of the fourth dimension of, you're not only living for today, but you're living for tomorrow and yesterday. You can exist in the fourth dimension of who you are as a person yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and then live, but also focusing on the moment. Because if you just kind of, your mind isn't focused on what you're doing right now, it's going to be fleeting, and then tomorrow won't even matter, or yesterday will mean nothing to you because you didn't even focus on it. You just let it pass by. So you didn't really capture those moments to hold on to. So yeah, it's a dope song. It's really deep. Definitely one of the standout tracks on this album for me.
I agree with all that. I mean, not really much kind of covered all of that.
Right. And it's a short song. It only has one verse. It's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So it's a pretty short song. I feel like he couldn't even went longer on it, but yeah, it's dope.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that takes us to the end just because.
Just because.
I love how he ends the album with this track. I love the beat. I love the energy. I love the
You know what's funny?
confidence.
I had the exact opposite thought of you.
What?
I thought Just Because should have went before Ride On. I thought you should have ended on Ride On.
No, I love that high note. He does everything because it feels good, man.
Right.
It's not even because he has to. It's not even anything. That's like
Yeah, he's talking his shit. He's like, I don't make music to sell records or to make money. I do it because I want to do it, and I'm good at it.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy.
How do you not end an album on that note of like you're going on this journey and everything, and it's like I'm doing it. I can do this. It's a
right. No, I get that. I think just Ride On for me closed the concept of the album. It was like a book. It was more of a bookend for me, where Ride On's a bookend, and then if you add Just Because at the end, it's almost like a bonus track for me. It's like a dope bonus track at the end of the album. But if you want to have a neat bookend to the album, I would end on Ride On. In my opinion, I could be wrong.
no, you're wrong, but yeah, but that's cool.
I'm sure Gift of Gab would agree with you more than me.
But yeah, I love this track. Yeah, I mean, I like all that. All that said, like it's just a fun way to end the album.
Yeah, it is
sounds
fun.
really good.
You know, it's an uplifting track. He's talking his shit. He sounds like he's in a good place at the end of this album. He went through a lot of trials and tribulations. He went through a lot of deep stuff, a lot of self-reflection. And then at the end, he's like, you know what? I'm doing this because I love it. And I feel good doing it.
Yeah,
That's
this
it.
track. I mean, there's always from the other episodes that we've done. There's usually like one or two tracks that stick with me. And I'm like, yeah. I've almost thought about like, should I like make a playlist together of one or two tracks from all the albums that we've covered? This one would go on there for sure.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, it's a dope song.
But yeah, man. I mean, my thoughts on the whole album are just like, I don't think he's someone I would have appreciated growing up. I think I would have just heard like all these lyrics and like for whatever reason just not have cared.
Yeah.
But there would have been, you know, a couple beats where I'm like, yeah, this is great. Because I was really more beat oriented when I was younger.
Right. Yeah, and I would have to say, even though I did love Blackalicious and Gift of Gab when I was younger, I definitely did not catch all of the things that we just covered today on the podcast when I was younger. I didn't fully understand what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I just knew that it sounded good, and I liked the energy that he was putting out. I knew it was positive energy, and that I gravitated towards that. But I didn't quite understand the levels of what he was talking about. So that's why it was really cool for me to revisit it and really like dig deep and understand what he was trying to get at.
There's maybe you'll remember it, but there's a song by Slaughterhouse, and Royce talks about how we keep putting out, forget the lyrics, but it's like we keep putting out these records for these kids, and the lyrics just go over their head. And I think that Gift of Gab is a really good example of
Right.
that. It just this is. I sometimes wonder why people like him aren't more mainstream and why they aren't bigger and why they aren't talked about more, like we mentioned with Jean Grey and everything. And I think it's because the stuff that they talk about, people just, they don't comprehend at this time. And it's really not until 25, 32
Right.
that I'm like, hey, this makes a lot of sense. And I really
Right.
fucking
And by
like
that
it.
time, you know, you're forgotten about and they've moved on to other artists. Yeah, it's a good question. I think he should be more well known. I think he should be more respected in hip hop discussions and top MC lists, because if you look at even his discography with just Blackalicious, he has amazing albums. He's got classics on there, in my opinion. And then he's got this album solo. He's got a couple other solo albums, not, in my opinion, not as good as this album, but they're still dope.
I felt that way. I mean, I did kind of like what I've been trying to do is to do like a once over with other albums when we're listening to somebody. So I listened to, there was another album by him. I listened to The Next Logical Progression.
Yep.
And I think I listened to it twice, and it didn't hold me as tight as this album did.
Yeah.
And I think even like the beats were fine, but like just lyrically it wasn't on point.
He was
this
in a
one
special place on this album, I think, to write all this and come up with all this concept and the content of what he was talking about. Is, it's really deep stuff, and it's probably stuff that you can only really write about once.
Was that him that said, "I don't get writer's block because I'm just talking about my life"? I don't remember if that was him or if that was another pod we did, but or maybe he said that in the next logical progression. That might be where he said that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought that was pretty solid.
Yeah.
But.
So I like I said, I think Gifted Gab should be much more respected. Maybe it's because he's from the Bay Area that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves, or he's just not known enough. But hardly anyone mentions him on Twitter and stuff like that when they bring up top MCs. But I think he should be up there. He's one of my favorite MCs. I think technical wise, he's up there. He's got the albums to back it up with Blackalicious. He's got the ability. He's got the voice. He's got everything. Like there's not much that he's missing. Besides just not being in the limelight. He's not in front of you.
Right.
He's pretty quiet.
Like I noted in the beginning, the cadence that he does on his verses is enough to make you listen to. I mean, I already listened to a track because I'm like, hey, I like the beat. Now I'm going to focus on what they're saying. Yeah. But like now I'm like listening to the beat and then I'm listening to what he's saying twice because I'm like, whoa, I'm missing things in that. And there's always something you're going to catch the next time. But there aren't too many. There probably are. But I mean, at least in terms of like people, I'm like, yeah, that hit me in the first like couple listens. Like Gifted Gab was dope, and just his delivery is awesome.
Yeah, he's super dope.
The experience that he shares with us is amazing, and it's really deep, and it resonates with you in a way that I feel like everyone can relate to.
Yeah, so if you're at all interested in listening to an album that has concepts and lyrical content and
art,
food for the soul,
and
art, and you want to go on a sound journey, listen to this album, pop it in while you drive to work or something. It's not that long, and it's a fun journey. The beats are dope. It's fun at times. It's emotional at times. It can get deep sometimes. It's got everything.
Mm-hmm. And and for I think a flashback, he's talking a lot about a lot of things that are 10 years before my time, but there's still ways that I relate to it at the same time. So there's going to be things in this album that might age you or be older than you, but it's still, he frames it in a way of like, oh, I wasn't listening to Houdini and this and that, but I was listening to Dr. Dre and Exhibit back in 2001 and stuff. So it's about the time.
Yeah, so that's our rap thoughts on Gifted Gab's fourth Dimensional Rocketships Going Up.
That's it. Please please share, please, and thank you for supporting us and everything.
Yep, thank you for listening right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely support us on social media. Follow us on all of the social media platforms. Follow us on Spotify. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. We definitely got some more great episodes coming up for you.
We got them, for sure.
Peace.